Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this little lesson on how to paint some bluebells in a landscape with water mixable oils. So I've got out my oils, and it's a little bit messy because I did a video just prior to this on how to paint the sunflower with water mixable oil. And so pardon my messy palette here. I normally am really big on keeping it clean, so it is coming off pretty good. This is one of those throwaway palettes that I like to use sometimes, and so that's why it was a mess. Anyways, that video is going up as well as this one today. I'm working on it. And I'm painting on these little black canvases I had kicking around my studio, and I thought I've just got to do something with them. And so I thought, especially for this one with these kind of dark trees, I could have fun doing one of those negative kind of paintings where you can kind of paint out and leave some of that. So we'll see what we can do here. This is a real, like, for me, it's like a micro painting. So first of all, I want to kind of establish where the little horizon is, because I'm painting on a dark surface. I feel like it'll be hard to sort of see where I'm going with it. So I'm mixing a little bit of this permanent blue violet with some ultramarine blue and some titanium white. And I'm just gonna look at where that is and kind of block it in. So say it's kind of going up about in the middle there, and I don't want it to be right in the middle, so I could either lower the space here and have it go a little bit, start that color down here. I think might be a bit easier, but then I'll have more kind of this green. But I might do that just because I think the trees need to be, I don't want them to look like short and stubby and shrunk. So I'll think this is the way I'll do it. So I'm gonna go and put in kind of that little horizon line. It gives me something to kind of start with there. And then might add a little more of that blue. And I'm going to kind of just, there's that one tree I want to show coming down here. So there's that, and then there's this little grouping of trees over here. And I'm just sort of dabbing kind of where I'm finding the edges of those tree stumps there. So then I'm just gonna dab some of that paint, and I'm gonna leave the fun thing about having the black canvas is you can leave some of it showing through, and it can be kind of interesting, to have that. So those are some more trees, and then there's a tree right on the edge there. So just kind of dabbing some of that color in there. And then I can look at some of that green that's in there. So I'll start to leave some space for where that green could go. So I'm just gonna create some little marks of blue, and I'm trying to keep this style is more of like kind of more like abstract, or kind of a more modern. When you paint on the black like this, it gives it a little bit of a more modern feel. So I'm leaving some space for where that green's gonna go. And then I might go and get some of that sky color, that sort of lime green, where the forest is, really getting a lot of light. And then there's in here sort of almost like a real pale blue, where it must be just the light coming through, but it looks looks a bit bluey, so I'll mix a little bit of ultramarine into that mix of sap and white. So you just want to have a few different colors to put back there. So a little bit of that lemon yellow and sap and white, and then this has some of that blue. So now is sort of, you can go in and sort of put in some of that lighter green area there. Over here, some of this more blue, it looks a little more blue in there. And these three trees are kind of separate, so you could kind of put in some of that. This big tree here kind of comes up. Just added a little more blue into the green mix there. And it just takes time. You kind of have to. So there's that big black tree. There's a very faint line in separating it from another tree, but it's just such a tiny painting. You kind of have to simplify it a lot. So I'm just looking at my reference photo here and just sort of picking out different shapes. All right, so now I have sort of a, general kind of block in of all those trees, and it just looks confusing right now, but we're gonna bring some forward and some back, so you kind of are gonna see it transform in a bit. I'm gonna go and put the green in the foreground here, using a little bit of this sap and some of this cad medium, and I'm going to put some of that in. And kind of dab it in there and kind of leave some of that purple showing. And of course, as it gets further away, you're seeing more just the kind of top of the grass part or the little stems. All right, so now everything's kind of blocked in, and it really doesn't look good right now because you see all that black is coming through at the same level. But if you look at the reference photo and really squint down, most of the trees in the background are going to be a lot softer. So we're gonna work on that next. So I'm gonna take, they look in a weird way, it kind of matches if I go with some of this blue violet color. Put a little bit of white into that and maybe a little green just to kind of dull it down. And I'm going to use some of that to create those kind of more misty kind of trees in the background. And all the little branches. So I'm kind of going back over those lines and putting in and so that kind of takes care of like how the value is a lot, you know, less dramatic when you kind of add some of that. And if you have dioxazine violet, you can use that too. You don't have to wear. I only bought this because I couldn't find a dioxazine violet, I think, at the time. And so I bought this, and it's also that Cobra brand. It's using some of that darker, but I've got Payne's gray I can use to kind of re-darken some of those trees if you, like I did, kind of paint over them. And kind of at this point, you're just looking at your reference and bringing out some of those more tree-like shapes and movements in the background there that are there, and you just kind of have to pick what you wanna bring out in this little painting. So bringing out those three over here, I'm gonna bring some of that detail here back using the Payne's gray. Darkening them brings them forward a bit. Because it's such a miniature painting, it doesn't, you know, have to be perfectly detailed. It is just something really small, and it just should be kind of like a little sketch. At least that's what I would think. Versus a landscape that's, you know, full scale. So now I'm going to really lighten these. Where the sunlight's coming through, these trees start to get really light, like a real pale violety gray color in there. And I want to show that. So I'm going to use the edge of my brush and just sort of go back over these ones here, down, especially at the base. They get a little bit darker near the top. Put some of those in the background too. And there's almost like a bit of an orange. So I'm gonna get first I gotta go back and really lighten where that light's coming through here. And before you get too stuck on everything being where it is, you can take like I sometimes will take a dry brush and just kind of go over, just pull up right along those trees, in certain spots. You want to leave some of that black, but some of it you kind of want to, like, especially these ones that are more out of focus. I'm going to just drag my brush up there. Really loosen that up a bit. Okay, now I want to kind of build on that light a little bit in there. So I'm gonna got a smaller brush I can use, and I'm gonna just get some of that. There's some real pale in here, real pale, kind of grayish. I don't know what it is, kind of greeny, almost like it looks almost white. But I'm gonna go in and really try to put in something in there that shows that it's really light there. And that starts to make it look really more interesting. So you notice I'm not just painting straight up. I'm kind of making little marks that are kind of like, you could just see them as sort of more organic shapes that are in all those trees. And so I'm keeping like a branch kind of shape there, you see. So, and I'm looking at where this main light is coming through, and then it kind of spreads across here a bit. And then a little bit over here. And at the end of it, these paintings, when you're changing a photo to something kind of abstract like a painting, you never know how it's going to look at the end. Sometimes the colors you get carried away, but you never know. It's just a real relaxing thing to do, because you're kind of ad-libbing as you go, but then you see some things that you enjoy and that you like in it already, and then it kind of carries you through, as you're painting. So now what I can do is look at these kind of brighter pinks in there. So I put out a primary magenta, because with some white you'll get a nice pink color like that. And then I'll mix a little bit of that in between with that mixture I made with the violet and the ultramarine blue, that kind of gave us this kind of nice, kind of a purpley color, cobalty magenta color. And I'll just put some of that in there. And I'm trying to not get overly carried away with how I put it in. I want it just to try to keep this simple flow coming from the light source there. And then over here you'll see there's some more coming through the trees. as the light just kind of carries it through. And you can get some white in there and really get some lighter, just a few real bright dabs of it. Coming through. And now you start to see, as it transitions from that sunlight coming through, there's some lighter purple color. So I'll mix a little bit of that in with that original blue, and I'm going to just dab some of that in. If you need it to be a little bluer still, just add a little more of that ultramarine blue. Mix it up some more. And there's some little bits of light that kind of come down here. And I think I'll even use a bit of my palette knife, even though this is such a tiny little painting, but I feel like it would look more interesting, especially when I dab the paint kind of on, because it's mixed on the green that's underneath because of the nature of the way these flowers grow. I feel like it would just look really more interesting, and it would be kind of easy to get the effect a bit better. I think I'll add some, as we get some of these lighter blues, I'll add some of this cobalt to it. There's all different kind of shades in there of violets and blues, and so if you get a couple going that you can, make a few different piles of this blue, then you have something that you can kind of work with. So now I'm just gonna put some of that down, and especially on these bits in the foreground here. And now we got to get some of this real blue. Bluebells. I've painted this before, and I've painted this for my Patreon channel, and it's one of my favorite lessons. So I thought I'd just do it again using the water mixable oil. Just, even though all of my painting lessons are kind of interchangeable, you can paint this way with normal oil, or you could paint this way. pretty much with any of the oil or acrylic mediums. So now you see that nice texture of all those little bluebells, and then we can add a little bit of the green with it that way too while we're at it. Especially up in near the back here where there's some real bright greens. Okay, so gonna make that pink again a little real faint, real, pale mixture of that pinky color, and just put a little bit of that in there just with the palette knife. Kind of gives it that sparkle of light that we want to really show that coming through the trees there. And then you can take the edge of your palette knife to put a few really nice, smooth detail branches in there. And I'm using that gray mixture that I had mixed up. And I think I'll put this branch in here, so I'm gonna just kind of, it's a miniature painting, but it's amazing what kind of things you can get up to on such a tiny canvas. I really like those lines. Now the trick is, if you like something, not to get carried away like I do. Okay, so there, I got carried away, but now I've got this green, and I want to put a bit of that on that little branch. So I'm using this little palette knife to dab on. Just dab a little bit of that. Maybe get some brighter lemon yellow and a little bit of white so it kind of pops, and do a few of those. Just a little bit here and there of wherever you see those little kind of little bits of light kind of captured in there. That's a really fun little tiny painting to do. And I hope you give it a try. And I'm just using some sap green and a little bit of that yellow and some white. So, and then you could do a few little things like that, using your little darker green here in the shadows. You could put a few And then there's some little bits of this blue kind of sprinkled along through. And it also helps to break up all those, all the lines in the forest. So now you can get some of that blue from the Bluebells and just kind of go along. Oh, that's a little too light. I use some of that Payne's gray in the mix to kind of darken that cobalt and Payne's and a little bit of white. You can put a little bit of that blue in some of the forest there. And then I'm using a little Payne's gray just to kind of soften it up a little. And the only other thing you could do is I see a little bit of, there's a tiny hint of a bit of almost an orange, like a real pale kind of orange light coming from, the sun hitting those trees and sort of how bright it is. So you could add a little bit in there. Just gonna make that thinner. And then get a little bit of white and really to finalize that real bright stuff coming in there. Just get a few real bright maybe a bit of that orange in there. Really emphasize that, brightness that comes through there. So I didn't, brighten it all the way like that, but you definitely could brighten it more up here. Bring that light, all the way through. I don't paint a lot of landscapes, so I'm not as experienced as I'd like to be, but I'm definitely going to do more because that's an area of I don't have a lot of videos, but I really like painting them, so I'm going to add to my landscape lessons and do some more. I love painting snow and stuff like that, so I'll probably do more like that. But I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and don't forget to share it and do all the liking and all that stuff so I can get more people's eyes on my lessons that I do, and every little bit of encouragement. So if you have any comments, please feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I'll look forward to painting with you again real soon. Thank you.